Erin Reed and welcome to the Love from Lizi channel. These are the 10 cards I made using the March kit, which I think is just super sweet considering it has all these cute little candies and gems. Stay tuned to learn how to make all of these 10 cards with me right now. All right, let's start with card number 1. Okay, so I pulled out the chocolate, or the really dark brown color, and cut it down to be an A2 size. I also have one of these matte cardstock pieces, and this one has, I'm trying to see if it's, yeah, you can definitely see it on camera. It already looks distressed, which I absolutely love, but we do not want our eye, I didn't say we, if you want it to be the exact same size as the front cover, go for that, but I love being able to see the edge of what's already on the card. That layer of dimension is just one of my favorite things ever. So since the card width is normally 4 1/4, I'm going to go down by 1/4 inch. If you're in centimeters, you could go down by a couple centimeters. And I'm just going to trim off 1/4 inch going both directions. So since it's 5 1/2 going the other way, it's going to be 5 1/4. And you only need to trim off one side because now it's even. And you can see this beautiful border going all the way around. It's fabulous. So there's that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. For all of my tape runner needs, I love my Xyron. So that's what we're going to be using today. Just makes putting on tape so easy. It's no muss, no fuss. Super simple, and it sticks. So yay! Alright, so we're going to stick that down. Okay, I also went through, and let me pull up the sheet that I cut it out from. So one of the sheets that's in the kit has all these what I would call like bookmark kind of pieces, but I loved just the little candy jar right here. So I fussy cut that out, and for that I love my Fiskars scissors, the ones that have the hinge on them, because it really makes fussy cutting easier, but I didn't think you guys wanted to sit and watch me fussy cut. So I went ahead and pulled that out, and just because it's going to have some raw edges, I have just a little ink, and this one's got a nice fine little tip applicator. That's going to go on there. As a heads up, don't forget to check down below because all of the supply links are going to be down below for everything I've used, including to get to the kits, and then little extra supplies like the inks and stuff will be listed down there as well. So make sure you go check those out, and don't forget to subscribe and like this channel. Woohoo! All right, so here we have our little candy jar. Now, I don't just want to lay my candy jar. I want to add some dimension. My thought is my candy jar is going to go up here. And then I pulled out one of those little acetate pieces, and I love the one that says fabulous. If there was a sweet, I would have gone with that, but there was no sweet because it's candy sweet. But fabulous works too. But I want to add some dimension and some kind of funness. And in the kit are these really cool, and this is why I picked the chocolate, these cool strips. So I'm going to take a strip. Right now I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. And we're going to create some fun dimension in the back. So I'm going to take a strip, lay it down without yanking it off. And I don't know if I want to go straight lines all the way across. If I want to have fun and angle it, I'm still kind of deciding. I think I'm going to go for more straight lines. But I don't want my lines to be perfect in terms of the length. I want them to be fun lengths. So I'm going to take this guy here. This one's way too short, but I might use it in the end. So I'm just going to put it off to the side. So I'm going to keep on adding these strips and speeding it up. Alright, so now that I have that on there, the next thing I want to do is I want to pop this up. So I have some of these little 3D pop dots, and I have them, so I might as well use them. I know there's cheap ways of doing this and all that kind of stuff, but figure if I got the suckers and I paid for them, use them. So they just give a little bit of a 3-dimension. There already are a pop dot, which is great. You just kind of line them up. They're super sticky, so be careful about that. So there you go. So add that in there. And the plastic doesn't want to stick to your fingers. Make sure that you cannot see the little foam dot piece from there. And then pop that guy up there. Now I think I'm going to have to do this as much as I really don't want to do this. It's going to bug me that these pieces are going to be floppy. So I got to cut this thing, which is going to be interesting. So I'm going to take my scissors that I don't care about too much. And I'm going to trim my little sticky dot in half, which is, it's hard to do because it wants to stick to itself. And it's going to stick to the scissors. That's why I don't want to use good scissors like those ones. And peel off and attach. Static cling around here is not fun. So I'm just going to lift this little guy up, take half my sticky dot, and gingerly place it on there. For the top one, I might have to tear this again. Make sure that it is definitely tucked in there and it's not being exposed. There we go. So now I have my last little sticky piece. And because this is so tiny up here, I just want to use a little piece of it. There we go. And it just gives it that little dimension there. And then I'm going to get rid of this guy because it's going to stick to everything around. So I still have some little pieces left. And so what I thought I'd do is, instead of cutting off new pieces, because these are little extra bits that were just left over, I was going to match and kind of fill in down where I felt I needed a little bit more. So I've got some other fun pieces. Oops, that's not the right size. Now, one of the things I'm looking at here is that the different types of, there are different widths, not different types, sorry, there's different widths on here. So you can easily have fun with the width of your strips that you go across on there. You can make them all long, all short. I think I've got one more, I can fit right in here. And so this is kind of a fun way of giving a little more life to your strips without having to pull out a whole extra strip. And just also to see if you need to add a little bit more in there because you're just a tiny bit short on the length. So there we go. And I actually did have one other one that was up here. And I'm just going to thread this because there's a section that does not have sticky in it. And I feel like it just needs a little bit more up top here. All right, so there we go. Now we're going to add our little fabulous down here. I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive, kind of where the lines are on the words. I don't want to overdo it because I don't want to see it. I'm trying to hide it in the acetate. Line this down here so it sticks down. Just enough to stick it down is all you want to do. People have different ways they like to stick down acetate or clear stuff, and I just use my tape runner and hope for the best. All right, so now for some fun things. First thing I want to do is I want to add in some of these cute gems that came in the pack and kind of a starburst just randomly around here. I'm also going to be adding in some sequins, but I don't want to do it all in brown because there's already a lot of brown and the gems are in brown. I can't change the gems, but the sequins in here, I've got some other fun colors, and there's so many colors in the candy jar that I can play with that. So I'm just going to add a few random fun gems. Like this thing is kind of bursting forward and bursting out. If you have a special way that you'd like to apply your gems, if you've got tweezers or something, go for it. But I find I just stick it on. If I try to be too precise, I'll nitpick and it won't look as good because the whole point is it's supposed to look random. But they're just kind of bursting out. Have some come down below here, have some pop up above. And because we're putting so many on here, your eye is going to tell you when it looks good. And we're also going to be doing some of the Nuvo drops. We're going to add some of those drops in here, but that's going to be my last thing to put on because I don't want to make it, I don't want to ruin it. Okay, so that looks good to me. You know when you're done, when you're like, yeah. Now we're going to add in a few sequins. I don't want to do pink because it's not going to work, so I'm going to do that lime green. So I'm going to dump a few of these out, and I'm going to get smart because I know I'm going to be using sequins on and off for this whole set of 10 cards. So I have a little tray that instead of me opening, closing, opening, closing, opening, closing, I'm going to dump all my sequins into this, keep my little baggies so I can pop them back in for whatever I don't use. There we go. So if you know you're going to be using an object quite a bit and getting into like a little baggie like this, if you've got some sort of little tray, and I've got a lid to go with my tray, so even if I step away for a couple days or even if it's a week, I can close this, but I know I'm going to come back to it. So this is a good way to kind of get in here and use this. Now for my sequins, I specifically have I have a methodology that I like to use, which is my little emballé tool, which adds sticky to the end of the stick. And then I also use a little fine line glue with a fine line applicator that I will go through. I want to make sure I'm getting a good bead on this. I'm just going to do a tester squirt to make sure everything is flowing well on my glue stick. There we go. And I'm just going to add in little dots of glue right where I'm going to add in the sequins. Keep in mind, I still have the Nuvo drops to go, so I don't want to overdo how much I put in here right now. So now I'm going to add a little bit of this ball and then add the sequin gem. You can speed that up. Okay, so now I've gone in, I even added a few extra more down below. I'm going to add in some of my Nuva drops. Just like I did with my glue, I want to test, and I'm literally pulling paper out of my trash can. I mean, just a little scratch of paper, just to get the feel for the flow and for how you want to make your dots. Okay, oh, so that one got a little bit of an air bubble. There, I'm good. Okay, so I've got kind of my pressure feeling. I'm going to come in and add my dots. And this is going to be an iridescent dot. Make it feel even. You can always come back in and add another gem if you need to, but I think I'm there. I think I've got an even sporadic feel, not sporadic, but an even feel of all my dots on there. Now, the Nuvo drops will take overnight, so make sure you put this somewhere where it's kind of off to the side and not going to be in your way while you're working on something else. So you have a nice clean space for it to work on. And I feel like I have one little spot where I need to add a gem. Sometimes you just kind of take a second look. Right there. Ta-da! And there you go. Fun way of doing a card, a little bit something different, adding some different dimension, fussy cutting, and there is card one done. All right, we are ready for card number 2. So this time I pulled out a green card, and we're going to do something a little different. We're going to have an overflap, but it doesn't meet evenly. It's going to have a little lip at the bottom. So I've just taken a card and I've just rough estimated kind of where I feel like I want to have as much as that folded over. Just what I feel is for fun. And then I need to cut the card because a card is supposed to be 5.5 by 4 1/4, but I have way more than 4 1/4. So I need to trim this card down to being, and I'm going to cut it off this way, to being 4 1/4 inches long. So I'm actually going to have a little strip of green left over to use whatever I want, green cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Trim off the bottom of the card, and now I have an A2 size card. Okay, so what I've also done is I pulled out my handy dandy quarter rounder. How many people have one of those and you haven't used it in a while? And we're going to create some pretty cornered edges. So here's the first edges. Come in, trim those up. There's that. And then I've picked out some of the 6x6 sheets of paper. So I went ahead and trimmed this down to be 5.5. And I want to measure the length of my top flap here. So I'm just going to come in. I don't even have to do it that way. I'm just going to measure the length of my top flap, and it's 3. So I'm going to do it 2. I want to see the green border. So I'm going to go 2 3/4 because I said that was 3. Measure twice, it's a little more than 3. So I'm going to go a little more than 2 3/4. There's that. And the side that is going to come down, I'm just going to kind of rough check, make sure this fits on here. Beautiful. The side that's going to come down near the rough corner or the rounded corners, I'm going to round these corners as well. Clean that out. I always flip my punch, and I did a really bad job on that one, so I'm going to come in and re-punch. I always flip my punch so I can see what I'm doing. I also trimmed, and this just by happen chance, 3 inches on this one, and I'm going to round the corners because they're going to go on the inside flap here. That's super hard card so far, right? Just adding something different. Go ahead and add my adhesive here and put the paper on my top flap. There we go. Add my adhesive. Put it on my bottom flap. Now, another fun way, if you didn't want to do the rounded corners, it still would work, or you could do square corners and rounded and flip-flop them instead of doing them all rounded corners. So now it looks like a little envelope, right? It's kind of fun. And there's a little bit of an interest because you could go all the way up to the top. That part is completely up to you if you want to lay in. I like having a little bit of a plain color here because what if you want to write a sentiment and or you want to write something inside the card, you don't want to have it to be all filled with a color. But there is a little bit of a pop. You could also make this a lot shorter. So many ways you can do that. All right, I also went through and pulled out one of the cardstock pieces of paper that we got in the kit, and it had these little squares. So I love this square right here, and this was the inspiration behind why I did the green. And it needs a little something right here. It needs kind of a little doodad to kind of emphasize, and the flowers are completely going the wrong direction, but it's kind of hiding on there. So I think we're gonna pop that with a solid color. So we got all these little small pieces of paper in here. They're all mats. Why can't you use them for a background piece too? So the dark's not going to work. The white could work. That would be kind of cool. Something a little fun and different. That's a possibility. I don't want to do pink. I think I'm going to go for the white. I like that. So this little square is it's basically a 2 by 2. So I'm going to go 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. Get rid of some of this other stuff. There. And now that pops up there a whole lot better. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Go ahead and mount these two together. Now, when this gets stuck onto here, you're only going to be gluing the top part. Otherwise, your flap's not going to open. So I'm just going to put the adhesive on the top part of this right there. And I don't want too much of the flap coming down. And there is a cute card. Now, if you want to add a sentiment, you can, but I think I'm liking the fact because it's so busy already. There's so many patterns going on. I'm going to leave it the way it is. And now, because it does not have a sentiment on it, it can be used for so many different kinds of cards. This could be a birthday. This could be a thank you. There's so many fun things that you can do with this thing. So it's sentimentless to give it more purpose and more uses. So there's card number 2. All right, start with card number 3. Now, sometimes, I love making fancy cards, but sometimes you look at a sheet of paper and it does all the work for you, which is in the case of this one. So I'm going to take the other half of my chocolate paper, and I'm going to fold horizontally, and we are going to mat this on here. So I do need to trim some off because there is quite a bit, but I do not want to lose this banner. This is perfect for adding a sentiment, and on the stamp set that came in the kit, there is one that says "You're the sweetest," and that is absolutely perfect to put in there. So that is what we're going to do. We're just going to stamp "You're the sweetest" and keep it super simple. Okay, so since the card is a 5 1/2, I like the heights that I'm getting on the top and the bottom. It's perfect for me. So we're just going to trim off the length a little bit. And since the card's 5 1/2, we're going to trim this to be 5 1/4. And then just double check to make sure this all fits beautifully on there, and it is perfect. Now, since I have a little bit of a white edge and that's kind of bugging me, I'm just going to ink the edges of this real fast. It also brings in a little bit of the color that I'm going to use in the stamp, so that way the stamp doesn't look so foreign. And I am going to use a brown stamp because I like the look of all the browns on here. I love the fact the paper is doing the work for me. I don't need to add the layers. It's already there. So nice. Okay, I'm going to, and here's my other trick. I have a little bit of scratch paper. I'm going to stamp on here and make sure my stamp looks good. Make sure I'm also, yeah, I pushed a little too hard and it's a little bit offline. It's not straight, and that's going to bug me. So I'm just fixing that. I think I'm pretty good. Get good even pressure. Another tester, and there we go. All right. I like just to run my stamps, especially on something that I can't fix. Like once I stamp on this, that's it. I can't come back and refix it and check it, and it's just not going to happen. Do my best to kind of center this in here and stamp, lift up, and there I am. I did a pretty good job. I'm always so cautious when I stamp. I don't know if I'm doing it right. And then just leaving it like that. So there's card number 3. So fun and easy and simple because it does the work for you. Woohoo!
So my video had a little bit of a snafu and started doing something funny with my sound. So instead, I am doing a voiceover. So what I've done is I've taken the pink sheet of paper and as a background and one of the striped sheets of 6x6. I'm going to ink the edges of all the sheets. This is another small sheet of the matte border that I'm gluing down, sticking everything down, creating a nice small banner. And then I took the remainder of the striped sheet and I turned them into little squares that were about 2 1/4 by 2 1/4, and I'm inking the edges of all of those. I also have small sheets of white cardstock that I've cut down that we're going to stamp, and on the stamp set that's in the kit you have a little cupcake, a series of 3 cupcakes. So we're going to stamp in black ink all 3 little cupcakes. They're super cute, using my Misty to do this to make sure I get a nice clean precision on that. Beautiful thing is if you mess up while doing your Misty, you can always go in and flip it over and do the back side or cut a new sheet of paper. That's the amazing thing about doing small instead of stamping directly onto the card itself. So now I'm taking the Scrap Perfect pouch and I am adding a little bit of fine powder to make sure that the ink does not bleed as I color it in. And I'm using colors that are not a perfect match, but that complement the colors that are in the striped paper. So we have a yellow, we have kind of a fuchsia color, there's a green, and then also a brown. And I'm just coloring in all of these. I'm inking the edges of the white paper, making sure they have a nice clean border, and then gluing them down. And as I glue down the little cupcake pieces to the striped squares, I'm making sure the squares are facing the opposite direction, so they're vertical and not horizontal. Then I add in little glue dots on the back side to pop them up, and I center them and flip them over and stick them down as a card, and it is done. We're now moving into cards 5 and 6, and I found these cute little inserts that you can get from the scrapbook sheets of paper. So I'm inking the edges of them and they look like little sweet treats, and then I'm matching the border of the background paper because on little sweet treat cards, what I call it Project Life cards, it has a horizontal line, and so I picked the vertical line of the same paper but in a bigger print. I'm then adding an insert of another sheet of paper that's that gold matte stock, and I'm going to add a little bit of the brad at the top and the bottom, but I want to move the Project Life Sweet card up a little bit to allow room for a stamp at the bottom. I'm taking my foam mat and piercing a hole and then applying in the brads. On one card, I added the brads that had the shiny finish, and on the other card, I added in the brads that had a little bit of a distressed finish in it. So I'm just taking my poking tool, pushing it in, and then pushing the brad in. Super simple. All I'm doing now is I'm adding my adhesive back to it. It's going to pop up a little bit with the brad there, but it'll work just fine. Add adhesive to all the way around. Stick them in the center. Leave a little bit more room at the bottom to allow room for the stamp, so that way it's not perfectly centered. I also matched, I didn't want to put the pink card on the pink treat on the pink card. I put the pink treat on the green card and the chocolate treat on the pink card, just to kind of a little bit of a difference. And there you go. Moving on to card 7, I started off with a white cardstock base and I grabbed a little piece of vellum that was in the kit, but I wanted to cut the green off because I just want the circle. So I'm fussy cutting the circle out. The circle was part of a full circle that I actually cut the bottom off that had some writing. I then took 2 sheets of the 6x6 paper and cut them down and inking them in brown. I'm also inking the card because I really like that shabby chic look with this particular card. I love the look of layers, so I'm adding all these fun layers in there, and I'm tucking in that little vellum piece kind of to the bottom and just giving that circle element to the card. And I'm taking the little popsicle sticks that were in the kit and gluing them down with a fast drying glue and layering them staggering vertical, going up the tan base of that card. So just giving another piece of element. The 2 flowers are not in the kit. I did pull them from my stash, but I felt like I really needed a flower card on this. There were so many pretty elements. I am now taking the wire, it looks like it's a floral wire that's in brown, and I'm giving it a twisty turn and kind of finagling it through the card, putting it between the popsicle sticks and giving it a kind of a fun base for the flowers to sit on. I then took one of the acetate pieces, which is the Love acetate, and I'm just kind of resting it there until I get the bearing of the rest of the card. I'm going to go ahead and glue down the little wire piece, and then I grabbed a whole bunch of that, lack of a better term, the tinsel, and I'm going to basically wind it up, fold it in half, wind it up, and then layer it down, and it's going to kind of fluff out from underneath the flowers almost like it's like baby's breath or a little bit of a spray. And I'm grabbing about 4 to 5 strands and then just kind of winding it around into a little ball and then tucking it under the flowers. I repeat that for both flowers, giving each flower 1 to 2, I think I even add a third one later on here in a second, little spray, using that same glue, winding it down, adding a drop of glue, adding that little spray of the tinsel and that beautiful gold. My fingers are getting kind of stuck to everything, so I'm having a little bit of a problem. And then I'm going to take the flowers and then also glue the flowers down. See, I'm having sticky problems here left and right. Take the flowers and glue the flowers down on top of that. I felt like it needed one more little section after kind of tucking in and playing with my little pokey tool and pulling all the little strands out that I wanted to. So I add one more little batch just down to that bottom corner, and I found that that method, after gluing the flowers down and tucking it under, was actually a better method for that. Just kind of keep worming around and playing with the way that I like it. Go ahead and put down my love. I'm just adding a tiny little drops of glue to my love acetate piece, and then just a scattering of a few little fun gems. My fingers are a little sticky, so I was kind of having a hard time sticking these on, just kind of giving it that spray feel. And this is my cute little shabby chic card. So in the kit, we were also given a series of 3 little hexagons, not octagons, hexagons, 6-sided little dies that are all nesting, so they're in upgrading sizes. So I picked out 3 sheets of beautiful cardstock that's in 6x6 papers that all had a little bit of a hint of a lime green, a pink, and a black in it. So I used a black base for a card, and then I picked that matte board that's got a little bit of a shiny pink to it, and I matted that on there. I had laid out all of these hexagons perfectly on this card, and then I went and inked them, and I ran through my Xyron sticker maker to make them into stickers, and I forgot where I placed them. I thought I took a picture of where they were all laying, but I didn't. So now that I've turned them all into stickers, I'm going to start placing them where I thought I put them, but I didn't. I liked it a whole lot better the way it was. That's okay. So I just kind of go through it and I'm laying them down so they are kind of all fitting next to each other. I do a lot of picking up and dropping down, picking up because I'm not happy with the way they are. But the nice thing is that since it's a sticker, it can be removed and picked up and pretty cleanly. There was only a couple spots where I had a problem. I decided that in the end I wanted to make sure that all 3 papers each had 2 hexagons on there. So that's why you see me rearranging and kind of fiddling and picking, and you know, I struggled with this card a little bit. I loved the concept of what I was doing, but I messed up in my picture taking. So there's lots of rearranging and fiddling on this one. And as you can see, I've just not quite figured it out. So then I went in and I actually added the stripes that gave me the 2 of each card. And I liked the stripe going the opposite direction. I then pulled out 3 of the little buttons. The little wooden buttons are so cute. And I paired it with that lime green baker's twine. And I added a little knot at the top. And I did that for all 3 buttons. And I left the snips of the little tails on the buttons a little bit longer, and then I'm just gluing them down kind of in random spots, hiding one of my little mistakes. So there's a gap with a button because why not fill it in, make it better. And then in the pack we also had these beautiful stickers that were also hexagon shapes, and I thought, well, why can't I just use the word love, and then that would work for also many different cards. I think that's great. My first thought was to kind of have them line up along with the hexagons in there and add them apart, but they're just the wrong size. And when it was all said and done, I didn't love the look of that. So I changed it and I went vertical on the right hand side. And there it is. So we're moving on to card number 9. I took a piece of the vellum and some of the black cardstock for the black base and a little bit of a taupe colored background matte card, and I cut the vellum just to the square that it was. I'm now adding a bead of glue to the bottom, and then adding that little bit of ribbon just to kind of offset it, and I'm cutting it a little bit longer and then flipping it over and then layering it on the back and making it nice and even and flat up against the card. Super, super simple. Add a little bit of adhesive to the back with my tape runner, as you can see here, and I did have a little bit of oopsie there, and then glue it down onto the card. I just love the look of the way that it just kind of offsets and that color just pops. I'm adding a little bit of some gems the top and bottom, a little trio. 2 looks funny. I love the look of 3. I'm having a little hard time getting one of those gems to stick on there, and it's a super easy, beautiful, sweet life card. Moving on to our last card. I grabbed a couple little pieces from what I call the bookmarky pages, which I really wanted to use the bookmark on the card, but I couldn't quite get it to fit. It was just a little too long for an A2 size card. So I just cut out those 2 little sweet treats. I also cut out a series of papers in the green and the taupe and kind of that pink dots from the 6x6 pack, and I'm inking everything because it helps pop everything up from one another colors, especially when you have so many layers. And when I did the layers, I basically cut the sheets down to be 1/4 of an inch on both sides, so it's just 1/4 of an inch less every way around. We then have this cute little cupcake ribbon, which I just made the exact same length of the card and added in some of the glue to make sure it stuck down really well. And then I left the ends clean. I didn't tuck it under or fray them or anything. I love the look of it clean. And then I'm just gluing down these 2 little sweet treats right here in the center, and it makes for a sweet little card.
Thanks so much for watching, and sorry for the glitch with the sound. I did have to do some voiceover, so I hope that was okay. So thanks so much for stopping by and checking out. All links are down below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys again later. Bye-bye.